Right, this podcast is with Lucy Campbell and she is incredible. I don't really know how to put it into words, but mum, career-driven, challenges in a younger life, husband, all them sort of things. This is for you, this podcast, if you want to listen to it. I'm absolutely humbled and really grateful this podcast. Definitely one to watch. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Tezlom podcast. I'm going to move the stand a little bit already. I'm really sorry. I'm very excited to have this guest on. I'm nervous today. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know why.
I am. I'm like, what the fuck? Please, will you do me a favour and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do in your role?
Of course. So I'm Lucy Campbell. I have the absolute pleasure of being CEO of Right at Home UK and also Deputy Chair of the Home Care Association. Yeah. So Right at Home, we provide care in people's home to the elderly population, and we like to pride ourselves on the fact that we really do care, and we pitch ourselves at the quality end of the scale when it comes to care, really doing things for the right reasons. And I get to head up the whole of the operations. We're a franchise network, so we provide everything from quality and compliance support to marketing, training, finance, business planning, the whole shebang. And I am backed by the most incredible team and get to work with the most amazing network of franchise owners. So a bit of a dream come true really for me.
I'm going to just go, I was going to go down one way, I'm going to go down this way. How do you cope? How do you cope with that role? How do you cope with it mentally? How do you get around that, Luce? Like, because I've got a team of 10 at head office, 16, and I've got 21 franchises. How big's your team?
So we've got around 30 at national office, with a couple coming on board, which will take us to around 32. We've got 84 franchised territories and employing over 4,500 members of staff, all in all. In terms of coping with the pressure, I think first and foremost, I'm very lucky. I'm backed with the most amazing team. And I've also got an incredible leader in terms of our founder, Ken Deary, who's also chair, and there's not much he hasn't faced in life, and I think he is the absolute master of mental strength, and I've learned a lot from him. So I've been really fortunate that he's supported me through my whole journey, and every challenge that we've faced, it's been good to have somebody to just check in with and think, am I doing this right? And he's a wonderful example. But I won't lie, you're under incredible pressure. You've got a network of franchise owners that you need to show up and deliver the most phenomenal results for day in, day out. And we're also working, in social care, and it's tough. The sector's tough. We're faced with multiple challenges. And, we've also embarked on some really challenging projects in the digital transformation side, really trying to be trailblazers. And of course, things don't always go right, but what I always try and live by is making sure at the end of every day I've done everything for the right reasons, so absolutely on point with my values and ethics, so I've got nothing to reproach myself about. I'm really just knowing that I've given it my absolute everything, and that way you can sleep at night, and even if you don't get things quite right, you know that you've done it for the right reasons. And you've got your conscience intact. And I think that helps you to navigate through any challenge, really, as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I've given it everything and I've done everything the right way today.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at things. Yesterday I sacked 3 people from work, and I found it extremely difficult because I'm friends with them people as well. As friendly as you can be with teammates. I mean, I think over time you can become very good friends. But it's that piece of work, isn't it? Sometimes of when I went home last night, it was very much a business decision, and it was the right thing to do for the business. And I felt like I'd done everything I possibly can for them people in their roles. And it's that piece of work, isn't it? Of knowing I was doing the right thing and keeping your moral compass in the right place.
Absolutely. I mean, that must have been really, really tough because, the people you work with almost become part of your family. You spend more time with them than anything. But sadly, some people at certain points of the journey in business can be phenomenal in their role. But But as the business grows and the demands and the requirements of those individuals change, sometimes they're not always the right people for the longer journey. And that's really, really tough, you know, having to make those hard decisions for the interest of the company, but also in the best interest of those individuals.
100%.
Because there's nothing worse than seeing somebody, you know, who's a really amazing person with lovely values, but just not quite, you know, being able to deliver.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And trying to figure out what the best option is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just find it, I always want to ask like questions like this because living and breathing this business every single day, I often reflect and think, how do other people cope like on a day-to-day basis? And I think that it's, like, I'm not saying I don't cope, but there's definitely points I'm like, fuck hell, today's a tough day today. Like, I've done quite a bit. Like, yesterday was tough making that decision. Mum flew home. I was like, we need to do this, this and this. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, and how are you going to do it? And I was like, well, I need to get me this information, these figures and these figures, and I'll deliver it factually like that. And I think you'll probably do, maybe not sack everyone some days, but there'll be some conversations you're privy to and decisions you make within the business that can be quite tough. And it's that piece of work, what I was trying to get to is, I went for a big walk yesterday in between, I sacked someone, and then I went for a big walk to try and cope with that. And I went for something to eat, and then I went and I think I rang about 3 different franchisors, spoke to Ryan White and a few other people, Amrit and a few other people, just trying to get that clarity of thinking and then coming back to them, and that's...
And isn't that amazing, though, to have that peer network? Yeah. And I think that's what's just amazing about the franchise world. You know, all of the franchisors, we're so happy to support each other, all facing really, really similar challenges. Yeah. And it's the same for the franchisees within the network. You know, they've got this most phenomenal network of support. And you might talk to somebody outside of the sector or somebody who's not in business, and they'll give you the sympathy. But it's not quite the same where somebody's like, look, I was in exactly the same situation as you. It feels tough, but you're doing the right thing, or I'd advise maybe you try this.
Yeah, we've got a franchisee who's did really well at the start. We had him in business in I think 4 weeks, which is good for us. It's usually about 15 weeks. And he was in business straight away, and then he had someone pass in his family, went back to India, came back, and Ed's not been in it since. We've got a couple of the franchise partners that have been through similar situations, not lost someone, but been through challenges. And then they've had the same thing, that like dip of consistency or trying to get them head back into the game, and got them to speak to them. And we've actually gone down to support him today. He's in Bristol, but got him to speak to the 2 franchisees that have been through similar journeys. And I think it's that analogy I always use about a raft. If you're on a boat in the middle of the night and it was pitch black and it was freezing cold and raining, and you're on your own and you smashed into a rock, it'd be pretty bad when you're floating on that piece of wood. Yeah. But if you did it with someone else, it just wouldn't be as bad. Absolutely spot on. So it's that analogy of being able to share how tough it is right now, and someone be able to go, I've had that and this is what I did and that's how I got through it. Yeah.
I mean, I always say to the franchise owners, particularly in the early days where, you know, obviously they've made a massive investment, they haven't quite broken even, they're waiting for the phone call to ring, and they're always naturally, you know, really, really nervous. Is this going to work? I'm doing all the right things. I say, you know, in a couple of years, I'll be coming to you to speak to somebody that's in exactly the same position as you, and you get to tell them it was really, really tough, but, you know, stick at it. Look what life can be like.
Yeah, it's almost like a conversation of like when you were awarding the franchise to them, and you say, do you remember when I had that conversation to you? It's going to be hard. This is that hard point.
Yeah. And that's so important, to be really open and transparent with them at the beginning, isn't it, in terms of how tough it is, particularly the first 2 years. Because otherwise you're just going to set them up to fail if they're not ready to really mentally prepare themselves for just how challenging it's going to be.
Yeah. Okay. Man, how did you get into franchising? Because you've been doing it a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, no, a really, really interesting pathway. And, you know, I think, you know, a little bit of luck, being, you know, in the right place at the right time. You know, very, very fortunate. But I started off my career in the for more than profit sector, if you like. Did a degree in business and information management.
Where's your degree at?
In Liverpool. And I decided...
You're from Liverpool?
Yeah, I'm from Liverpool. Oh, yeah. Decided that I definitely didn't want to go into the IT side. Interestingly enough, I've kind of ventured into that world in recent times with our digital transformation project. But I really like the project management side, but very early on realised I wanted to make a difference. So I started off in social regeneration in an area called Liverpool called Toxteth, famous for the riots back in the 80s, working to really improve conditions within the neighbourhood, and worked on everything from the homelessness agenda to social deprivation to digital inclusion, and I realised wherever my career took me, I definitely wanted to do something that made a difference. I did take a short detour into IT comms, did very well at it, but it just didn't give me that job satisfaction. So I then found myself working for an organisation that supported people affected by homelessness, but we ran professional catering operations, and we'd have really fantastic chefs that had worked for really well-established brands such as Harvey Nichols, and they would train up people that were affected by homelessness and give them transferable skills and then support them back into the community. And the director that I worked for in that business knew somebody that was setting up a venture called Franchising Works, and that venture was to support people at transition points in their lives to get into franchising, and part of the enabling package, if you like, was a funding package that we designed in partnership with one of the main high street banks to provide what was called a quasi-equity investment. So effectively, if you were an individual wanting to get into franchising but didn't have that money to get the rest of the money from the bank, we could invest on your behalf, and when the business was making enough profit, you'd buy yourself out of that fund, if you like. And we supported over 100 people into franchising, and it was at a time when unemployment was an issue in the UK, and that was, you know, the most phenomenal eye-opener into the world of franchising, and I absolutely fell in love with everything that it was about. But working in the for more than profit sector, quite often a lot of the businesses rely on government funding, and in terms of longevity, it's quite hard to see past 3 years because it very much depends on how the political landscape pans out. And Right at Home were one of our clients, and certainly from the outside looking in, they were, you know, a major brand, you know, in reality, in comparison to where we are now in our infancy, but still one to really watch. It had a really good reputation, and I knew it was really going places, and saw a job advertised as a senior business support manager. I was previously CEO of Franchising Works, so in terms of job title, it sounded like a step back, but I didn't see it in that way. I saw it as a sideways step to kind of take on a little bit of a business consultancy role. And then, I came to Right at Home. That was about a decade ago now, and never looked back.
Well done, it. It's an interesting way to get into it. I didn't even know. Is it still about Franchise Works, or?
No, I think they've got a presence online, but unfortunately, a big part of the business model was European funding, which isn't accessible anymore.
Yeah. Don't sound like you're from Liverpool, though, do you?
Do you not think so? A lot of people say that. I did a lot of amateur dramatics when I was younger. My parents are also from the northeast as well. So yeah, I think a lot of drama, theatre, etc.
When did you start doing drama?
Oh, when I was teeny tiny, dance and drama. Did it all through school. Then did a little bit while I was at uni, and then got my head down and focused on my career.
I think I did drama, but I think doing drama helps you cope with public speaking and being a bit more open and out there sometimes as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, definitely, because you have to memorise a lot if you're doing,
plays,
solo pieces, plays, etc. It does really help you. You don't realise you kind of learn that skill set to just kind of naturally kind of memorise information, which it does make it easier when you're coming to do your keynotes, etc.
Yeah, Theo's like that. Theo's done acting in theatre for years, and he's quite good at like public speaking. I don't know if you've ever heard him, but he's quite good at it. What was upcoming like? Was Mum and Dad from the North East? Did you say? Mum
and Dad from the North East, but born and bred in Liverpool. Yeah. And I'm really, really fortunate. Very, very loving parents.
Nice.
really nice family life. I've got a brother who's 12 years older than me, and just nice school life, nice
Enjoy
education.
School.
Did I enjoy school?
Are you academic? Are you quite into that?
I would say I'm academic enough, but I think what really excites me is real life business. The grades that I needed to get, but I think where life really started getting exciting was when you're really at the coalface making a difference.
When you left uni, kind of thing, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, I hated school and I hated all education because I just couldn't concentrate. I couldn't nail it down. It wasn't really something I was interested in. I was the same when I left college and I went and sold cars, and at that point then that was when I started to get a grip of it. Yeah,
I think in this day and age, I think education is taught in a much better way. They really recognise that different people's learning styles need to be appealed to in different ways. And I actually think, if I was at school now, I'd have probably flourished even more so.
Me too.
Without question, it was kind of you just had to get your head down and do what you needed to do, get to the next stage. Whereas I think it could have been made a lot more enjoyable.
I think so. My kids are primary school now, 5 and 8, and I hated primary school. I remember being bullied at primary school, really didn't like it. And that kind of followed me into secondary school. I hated secondary school, but they absolutely love it. Even Jackson's got dyslexia like me, but he's flourishing in other areas, and it's really nice to see. But I've got a nice relationship with the teacher, and I think they have a better way of coping with him. And then also little Logan, he's complete opposite. He's definitely more like me in terms of, he's a little renegade. He just runs around chasing girls all day. So he's been playing football. So but I feel like school education since I left in 98, and I think there's a lot of change since then. I feel like the same as you. I feel like I wish I'd known now. I wish it was like it was now. I think I'd have done better. But then again, I always think I'm really glad of the situation I'm in now. I really enjoy what I do now, so I don't know if I would. It's a funny one, isn't it? Where can we go now? When you left uni and went into franchise works, were you travelling a lot and moving around quite a bit?
Yeah, so I didn't leave uni and go straight into franchising works. Obviously, started off working with social regeneration. Spent a lot of time running a social enterprise in the digital inclusion space. So early on, not loads of travel because that was quite a localised position. When I went to work for Create, which was the organisation that looked after people affected by homelessness, I was working across Liverpool, Manchester and Leeds. So that's when I started to need to travel more. And I think I guess where you're going to go with this is how do you kind of manage all of that
and how have a family,
having a family. And I think I've grown up in the era where as a woman you're told you can have it all. You can do the child and you can do the business. And we had a few problems conceiving with Holly, so she was a little bit of a miracle baby. So obviously, absolutely delighted that she's here. And I am the main breadwinner in the house, so as well as being really, really career driven, it kind of wasn't an option. And I went back to work when she was 3 months old, and I think nobody really truly prepares you for kind of the mental health piece. And I think one thing when you have a baby, a lot of people will tell you, you don't feel like your brain's quite as sharp when kind of going back. And I did go back far too soon. I think.
Did you have to?
Yeah, I kind of had to because I was running the digital inclusion social enterprise at the time, and I had somebody kind of making sure all the wheels were turning, but I had to get back in there. Financially, I needed to go back into work quite soon as well. And I did say at that point I wouldn't have another child unless I could take proper time off to invest. So that was tough. But I got through it because I've got an amazing family. of support. And when I've got people in work now, when they are having children, and male and female, I do try and give them a really honest view about it's like literally not a bed of roses. And the thing as a mum as well, and some men get it, but I do think it's more common with women, is that kind of that separation guilt. 100%. So, when
my missus wouldn't drop the kids off at nursery because she couldn't handle it, because she had to go. Logan Jackson we had to have a proper conversation. He was 12 days old when she had to go back to work.
Yeah.
And she was the same, that guilt of not being a mum properly.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can't prepare yourself for that, because when you're pregnant, you just kind of think, oh yeah, this will just completely like slot in around my lifestyle. And I was lucky because my mum was absolutely amazing and really supportive with looking after Holly. But you do, and at school, I always, if I was able to pick her up, I'd be shooting in and shooting out, a dance, shooting in, shooting out. Never the person who could kind of sit down and chat with the mums and have coffee, or do all the extra help out with the school and things. And you do get judged by other parents, absolutely, and that is tough. And also, as Holly was growing up, we had a period of time where she was really, really quite ill. She started to have quite serious seizures. We couldn't get to the root of the health problem. And when, obviously, your child's ill, they just want the mum, don't they? Yeah. But luckily, working full right at home then, and Ken was very, very supportive, and it didn't impact work. But it's hard to be, everything to a child, particularly when, they've got potentially concerning health condition, and be, turn up, show up and work and do a really good job. And don't really know how I did it, but I did.
Can you remember any particular things that helped you cope, Luce?
I think support network, absolutely.
Chatting to people and getting off your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to people, parents, and in a way, I think actually being able to focus on something outside of that, being the career as well, sort of helps you switch off. I will say, fortunately, it was not anything serious. It was just something called abdominal migraines, which caused the seizures. But it was at one point, several times a month, and she was really, really ill with it, really, really sick, and she'd just kind of completely collapsed. So it was quite scary. And then obviously when you're away, worrying, will something happen while I'm away? And they want the mum.
Fuck, it's hard that, Lucy. You're skirting over it, but I know, because I've got kids and they've been poorly too, my kids as well, so I know what it's like that.
Yeah.
Because I've been travelling away and my little Logan's been poorly, and I'm like wanting to burst get back. It's fucking hard work, that. That's obviously, well done. But it's an interesting topic, because we've had people that work for us who've been pregnant before and it's not worked, and we've had, we've not been able to offer them a role and things like that, because I think whatever's happened in their personal life. But then my mum raised me and Tom while my dad worked away 7 days a week sometimes, pretty much brought 2 kids up and ran a business. So she has a different opinion as well as different. Everyone has different opinions, don't they? Someone you speak to is like, I want the full 12 months off, I want to bringing my child up. Mm-hmm. And I always struggle with that, trying to figure out what the best. I literally bring it up in every single podcast just because it resonates with me. Yeah. Because I get so much guilt as a dad of trying, wanting to be there. I think last year I did 19 weeks on the bounce of travel, and that's hard. And I've always took the kids for the school and the nursery one, and then last year it changed because both of them went to school, and it made sense for Charlene to do the school run, and I kind of missed that part of it. But yeah, it's that it is possible to have a flourishing career and have kids as long as I think you're organised. Yeah. I personally, we don't have any support. So whilst we had Jackson and Logan, my dad was extremely poorly with Parkinson's dementia, was in a wheelchair, and Charlene's mum lives miles away, and we had no one to support us. And the nursery fees were about 1,200 to 1,500 quid a month. And we just and I worked here, and Charlene's a self-employed hairdresser, and we just mixed it with 2. And I find it really difficult when people can't get them. I struggle understanding what their thought process was when they were having children, of why they didn't put things in place to get themselves in that position to be able to cope with it. And I think sometimes it's that lack of education of people who are becoming parents of what it's really going to be like.
Absolutely.
I think they just bury their head in the fucking sand. And this might rub people up, but I honestly think people aren't prepared enough, don't get enough support, and think it's going to be plain sailing. It really fucking isn't.
Being prepared and having the right support is just absolutely
like, if you've got a full-blown career, you need to, the minute you find out you're pregnant, you need to find a nursery.
Yeah.
That day.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you know, if you want to succeed in your career, you have got to give it 110%. So if you want to be a mum as well, you've got to make sure you've got the infrastructure around you. Now, I'm really lucky. My husband, he does a solid job, but is very much 8 till 4 and not an hour outside of that. And so that works really well because mine's obviously the polar opposite. And I am a workaholic, but it's because I love what I do. Yeah. So that's great. Plus I've got my parents, so we are really, really fortunate. I don't know how people do it without that support. I mean, my sister-in-law, she's based in London. She's got an absolutely top job at Savills, but they've got like no support network around them whatsoever. And they've got, you know, they've had nursery little ones in school now, but when they're ill or something happens,
I had to bring them to school. I brought them to work.
Yeah. And you can, that's the beauty of having your own business.
The kids used to go to the salon and they used to come here and just be on the couch with a blanket and the iPad. Because we had no choice.
Yeah, you've just got to do what you've got to do.
Yeah, you've got to do what you've got to do, and I find it. Like, when people's kids are poorly here that work for us, we bring them to school, bring them here. In the summer holidays or school holidays, they just bring the kids to work.
Oh, lovely.
Because you just have to, because they don't want to miss out on, they don't want to use the holidays up, and the kids can play on the iPad or PlayStation. We've got an Xbox here and stuff. So just make it work, don't you? But it's a funny one, isn't it?
If I brought my Holly to work, she'd be trying to run the show by the end of the day.
Oh yeah, my kids. No one else does any work. No, they trash the place. There's food everywhere and bits and stuff. Yeah. But I always find it an interesting conversation. I think sometimes it might rub some people the wrong way, but I also. So, because I remember my mum and dad have had businesses their whole life, so I was born into a family of just who've been entrepreneurs their whole life. Both of them, mum and dad together, had separate businesses and their own businesses and sold them as well. And then born into franchising, literally born into franchising. And, it's that, I've lost train of thought where I was going to go then, but it's that piece of work of, again, just knowing that you've got to be set up to do that, to make this happen, to carry on to the next stage. You can't not plan them things. I think it's bizarre, how people don't cope in them situations. But that's what I was going to say is, I don't remember my mum and dad not being putting me in nursery. I know because they told me.
Yeah.
What I do remember is my dad and mum running businesses, and me being in their businesses at 13 and 12 years old and learning how to. They had a clothes franchise and unloading lorries and stacking shelves and dealing with customers and all that side of it. So, you know what I mean? I'd rather be an inspirational parent than one that was looked after when I couldn't remember anything. Yeah. I know it might sound hard.
No, absolutely. And I asked my daughter, what are her kind of reflections on, me being there as a mum over the year, and does she feel she's missed out? And she tells me she doesn't, and she says, it's been great to have that sort of role model. And obviously, in terms of life experiences, she's benefited massively. We've been fortunate to be able to travel a lot and give her, a wonderful childhood. And
holidays are big, aren't they, when you're a kid?
They're huge, and particularly when you do give, 110% to work, that holiday time needs to be really, really protected. And, we've put holidays ahead of kind of, moving to a big house and things like that, because I think it's really important. I've also got a stepson as well. He's 28. So my husband had him when he was 19. So he's always been in my life for as long as we've been together, since being a tiny, tiny baby. Came to live with us in his teens, and as far as I'm concerned, he is mine. But because obviously he's a little bit older, it's really, really important to us to kind of cram as many memories as possible as a whole family into those years. I'm very, very blessed with him.
Yeah, I love that. I think we're going to go on to another topic now, at least. Occasionally I'm going to talk about downtime. So at the minute I'm not having a holiday. You might not like that. So you might. I feel like you're going to jump down my throat about this. But I believe at the minute I want to get the business to a certain place.
Yeah.
So I've been doing we'll talk about this afterwards, but I've been training quite a lot. And I feel like the daily routines, if they're managed well, of downtime, you don't necessarily need a holiday. You don't necessarily need... Now, I've been bollocked about this from a couple of guests, so I'm quite happy to take a bollocking off you too. But I had 4 days in January. I went to Tenerife, and Mum literally said to me as she was getting on the plane, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come for 4 days." So I went and had a little break with her, but I've not had one now, and I won't book anything this year because I want to get the place.
How do your family feel about that?
They're going to book holiday without me, and I'm going to let them go.
They're all right with that, aren't they?
Yeah, well, and so my thing is if I went on holiday and the business wasn't where I want it to be, I wouldn't have a holiday. I would just be somewhere else thinking about the business, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I know. I kind of get that. And one kind of discipline that I've really tried to master over the years is being kind of present in the moment, because, yeah, you know, right at home to me, you know, it might as well be my own business, and I live and breathe it, and I absolutely love it, and everything that encompasses it. And yeah, when you're away from the business, weekends, evenings, you know, it's always in your mind. But for me, it's not work, because I just love it, and I'd happily, you know, just work, you know, 7 days a week. But I know that's not fair on my family, because I need to give some of me to them and to be completely present. And I think as I've managed to build up a really kind of trusted circle at Right at Home with some phenomenal kind of senior leaders now, I know when I go on holiday, you know, as well as obviously Ken always having a hand in, because he always will, and he'd always make sure everything's all right, and he's very protective of my time when I'm on holiday, by the way. But I know I've got at least one, if not two people there that if something's going wrong, they'll let me know. And I always, first thing in the morning, I'll kind of check my emails, and last thing at night, and I find it's really beneficial if I'm in a different time zone, because then kind of the working day's happened when you wake up in the morning, so you can kind of close off the day knowing everything's all right. Yeah. But I did read something on the internet the other day that said something like any more than an 8-day holiday, you don't get the benefit, and 8 days is actually the ideal time.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
It takes me a couple of days to switch off, though. It does. It takes me a couple of days, and then a couple of days before I get back, I'm kind of like raring to go and get the wheels moving.
Would you say you do? Would you say I'm going to delve in here, and you can get me telling to get lost if you want? Would you say you couldn't relax if you hadn't checked your emails?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
100%.
Yeah.
I would. So where some people say, "Oh, you should switch off completely," I actually say, and I say this to Ken, it helps me to relax knowing that I've checked in and everything's okay. Yeah. And I want to do that because I just genuinely really, really care that everything's okay. Yeah. It's not just a job, it's part of, you know, who I am.
I think, so this is another thing, right? I think, so I'll go again, I've gone off right on tangent now. I think there's a point in your career and your salary bracket that goes to a point where there is no longer the working hours. The ones that are on your contract are there for contract reasons. There's a certain amount of money you earn and a certain amount of responsibility you get to, and you now live that life. That is your life. And you can be on holiday, you'll take a phone call about work if there's a certain level. And I'm the same as you. I've got an amazing team. Kay's one of them. Jem, Ollie, Amanda, Roz. So if I go on holiday, which I'm not going to go, but if I did go on holiday, we've put things in place now so that I can have a better holiday. But they know there's a certain level of priority of stuff that I don't need contacting about. And then some stuff, it's like, I need to text you about something, can I talk to you about this?
Yes. Because
this needs a decision, and there's only me and Roz, and I'm generally on holiday with my mum.
Yeah.
So that's how it would be. And I like that side of it, and that's what I'm trying to say to you, is I think I would really struggle to have this argument with someone. There's a certain level of salary and responsibility you get to in your career that you have to live it. And you have to be passionate about it, and you have to love it. And if you don't, you'll not succeed.
Yeah. Now, I am that person. I live it. I'm passionate about it because I want to, and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work.
But the challenge that I'm constantly like questioning myself about, and people have said, you know, as a leader, when you model certain behaviours, people feel that they need to follow in suit.
So true, this.
So because I am a workaholic, some people have fed back to me in a very constructive way that some of the team may feel that that is the expectation of them. So if you email them at 10 o'clock at night, they have to respond. If they see you still in the office at 6:30 at night, that becomes the culture. And
it's not great.
It's not great. So I have tried to be more disciplined in terms of my presence in the office. And I think actually, I know we'll probably go on to talk about kind of exercise and things. Having built that into my life has made me have more discipline on the hours that I'm in the office. Still more than average, but more discipline, definitely. And so what I really do try and do is make sure now that I am getting better at modelling, a more kind of positive, balanced culture, so that everybody is looking after their well-being, and just understanding that not everybody is wired like me and Ken, that just, we just love business and everything.
Yeah, so I'm going to admit something now. I've done that here. I've fucked up. You can turn the recording off for this, Kate, if you want. But
Is this about me?
No, it's about me. I've definitely, over the last 12 months, been a bit of a dickhead about annual leave. And people having annual leave, and I'm like, do you not understand how hard it is right now? Like, don't have annual leave. I've never said it, but I've been sarcastic. I'm quite sarcastic, you probably know. And I've been sarcastic about it because I'm struggling, because I'm like, these things need to be done, and it needs to be done. But at the same time, people need downtime, and people need time with their family, don't they? And people want to have that time off, and they might be working all the socks off and need to press pause. So I'm trying to unravel what I've kind of done.
People need to recharge as well. And it's so interesting, isn't it, as well, even in terms of kind of our hours at work, because I think, we before COVID as well, we were I think very traditional in terms of kind of office time. But over time we've become a little bit more flexible, not at the extreme end by any stage, but just to try and work around getting the best out of people at the times where they're going to perform the best, and making sure people are genuinely as productive as possible.
Yeah. It's a definite learning curve trying to change the way you are. I definitely practicing doing them things. I've from the car game. So in the car game, you work 7 days a week. You don't have any annual leave. Like my boss, Barry Thompson. So me and Ollie, because Ollie he was also same boss. If you took your annual leave piece of paper into his office, he'd set it on fire and put it in the bin.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, he's top Barry. He's such a nice guy. But so that's kind of the mentality I've had drilled into me for years, is that you just work as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and that's living to work, isn't it?
Yeah,
which ultimately, I think if it is your own business, and I think right at home as my own business, I really do. It's a little bit different, I think. And as you said before, with seniority does come that extra level of responsibility, where actually if something happens in the business and ultimately that's your domain and it's 10 o'clock at night, there is an expectation. You know what I mean? We've got Simon.
You'll also want to take the call.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to sit there, Lucy, and go, pause the film and go, I don't want to take this call. You just deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got certain members of the team that you email them late at night, and even though they know they've not got to respond, they will because they want to, and there's at least 1 or 2 people I know that are quite similarly wired to me in the senior team, which is great. And it as well, when you look at the sporting world, those people that give like a little bit more than everybody else, those people that get up earlier in the morning to train to get that head start, they're the ones that progress. And it is the same in business, and it's so challenging to get that message across in terms of we want you to look after your well-being, we want you to take time off, we want to make sure we're giving you good balance and flexibility, but we also want you to give that little bit more, because we absolutely want to be at the forefront of what we're doing and continuously improve and make those incremental changes to absolutely have us at the forefront of everything we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And you can't always write that on a piece of paper in a contract either. So Kay will have annual leave. I know she's got some annual leave, she's moving, but if I rang her, she would answer the phone. And do you get what I mean? So it's like that kind of work, and then also Kay would also ring me, and it wouldn't bother me, and I think it's them pieces of work that it's the unwritten rule, isn't it? But you can't. That's what it is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's why, you've got to make sure, particularly in your senior leadership team, you've got like-minded individuals that kind of get you, and that you've got each other's back as well.
Yeah, it's
really
a culture
important.
thing. It's a bit of a culture thing. But it's interesting lessons to learn about holidays. I'm trying to get my head around it, and I did have last week I had a couple of days off actually, just going through something in the minute, and I had I was still available on my emails and phones, but I just wasn't in the building, kind of thing, that type of time off, doing other things.
I think, obviously, you've had Ken on one of these podcasts before. He's our founder. You won't meet a more passionate, driven businessman. Absolutely amazing mentor, but it's been interesting as he's kind of stepped into the role of chair, and he's done that to give me the opportunity. I think he would have been CEO forever and a day, and obviously absolutely phenomenal about it. And I know, because he's wired very much like me, just stepping back for him has been challenging, not because he doesn't trust me, just because he just loves doing what he does. And I've said to him, my role is to allow you to be as involved in the business as you want, or as little, and I know, he'll phone me, and he almost feels, if he's going to play golf, like a little bit guilty, and he shouldn't. It's his business. He's put everything into it, and we're all benefiting from all of the sacrifices that he made. But it's just kind of that thing that's ingrained in you, that you need to be seen to be working all of the time.
It's so true. It is so true. I feel that sometimes. I feel like I have to be here, but you can. It's your business to say that to Ken. You've put the effort in. It's time for you to reap some of the rewards now. Interesting. Talk to me about holidays. What would you like to go on holiday?
Well, I love city breaks. I think city breaks are great because they're, you're not away from the business for too long, and I find, really, really enjoy yourself. So off to Copenhagen in June for a couple of nights with a husband, which should be lovely. Took my daughter skiing in February, although I did end up almost having a solo holiday because she met a boy over there and I got neglected. It was great, and I got to do some great skiing. I often, though, my parents are in their 80s, and I am very, very blessed. Mum turned 80 actually 2 days ago. I'm very, very blessed that they're still completely compos mentis, reasonably active for their age. And they've been so supportive for me. So I try to take them away and spend some quality time with them.
And babysitters?
No, just me and one of them, just as a two. So I'll take my dad away and my mum separately for a couple of days. So I try to do that. And then obviously, this year we're very lucky. We're going on a cruise from Miami to New York around the Caribbean, which will be absolutely phenomenal. But Holly's taken one of her friends, and she's turning 16 this year, so probably, family holidays will not be in abundance after this year. So, yeah, it's a bit of a special one.
I love that. Yeah. So I was thinking, as we were talking before, about my predicament about holidays, and I was thinking, I have been some incredible holidays while I was growing up. I'm interested in getting Mum on the podcast and ask her about it. But, yeah, we've been on some amazing holidays. I think, again, if we go back to that sacrifice piece of, okay, you might feel guilt and you might not be there for everything all the time or whatever, and working late and stuff, and having responsibilities whilst you're with the children sometimes, being able to go on fantastic holidays that not everyone else gets a part of. I think that's important. Like, I've been to America 12 times when I was a kid. Been to Vegas, Grand Canyon, Arizona, did all that by the time I was like 18.
Probably why you're not so bothered about taking holidays now.
Maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's funny, and some people are always desperate to go to certain places, and it's like a must that they got to go there. And I'm like, why is it such a must to go? What is it you're going to see?
I think, particularly when you go kind of further afield, it's really, really sometimes just brings home to you that we are just kind of living on this tiny island in this bubble, and there's a whole world out there with so many more worse challenges than what we're having to contend with day in, day out. And I think it's quite important, I think, for the younger generation to really realise actually just how fortunate they are. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Holly has had, and Thomas actually, quite a few holidays where we've been able to open their eyes up to how lucky and fortunate they are.
Them culture changes when you hear that, like we did Marrakesh, that's quite a big culture change.
Yeah.
When I was younger, me and my brother, there was the bomb there the week after in the restaurant that we were sat in. There's a picture of me in the restaurant. No, Tom wasn't there. And the week after there was a bomb in that restaurant. I was like, fucking hell, that was a bit dead, close to the bone. Literally the whole balcony was blown up that I was literally sat on. But yeah, I think them culture shocks are quite good for you. But yeah, again, I always wonder why people have got this desperation to travel the world. But that's just my opinion on it. Talk to me about exercise, because we mentioned it before, like, because you've lost a bit of weight and you've been looking after yourself. So what's the script with you and exercise? Is it a big part of your life or not?
It is now, and it has been kind of periodically. So before I got married, I didn't have any children. Well, my stepson, but no, not a little one to look after, should I say. It was super easy to fit, gym, and I'd be in 5-6 times a week. It was just part of life. And then I think once I had my daughter, obviously you're working full time, and then every minute that you've got, you feel that you need to devote to your child. Yeah. So also before I'd had Holly, I'd been quite lucky in terms of just not really putting on weight. I've just quite lucky. Everything changes once you've had a child. And I'd had over the years periods where I'd taken up running and kind of lost a little bit of weight, and then very much kind of on a yo-yo. But really, I knew after you pushed 40, really needed to, if I'm going to be my best, both kind of in my personal life and business life, I really needed to take control and do something that was sustainable. Yeah. So I joined at the turn of the new year something called the Blueprint Challenge, and it was supposed to be a kind of a remote program where you basically get the program, you check in, and you kind of just followed it to the letter. But the guy, Luke Davidson, who was heading it up, who's absolutely phenomenal individual, by the way, he was based in Chorley, so it's about an hour's drive, and I thought probably worth going and just having a couple of sessions with him so that I know what I'm doing. And after I'd had one, I was like, I'm not bothered about the hour's drive. I'm going to come and see you a couple of times a week. And I actually like the drive because it's time to kind of, you're forced to kind of chill out and think, and you can't do anything other than drive. So it's great. So yeah, he's kept me on track, and it's been complete change in nutrition. Not that I was eating particularly unhealthy, but just really understanding exactly what you need to lose the weight in a sustainable way. And then lots of resistance, a little bit of cardio. But the thing is, it's not a chore now, it's a way of life. And Ken was saying to me, actually, it's very much about just bringing in kind of healthy habits. And I remember a few weeks into the program when kind of the cardio was getting increased, I was like, God, this is quite a lot to fit in. And he just said to me, well, how much do you want it? I was like, no, I really want this. And then I was just like, nothing was stopping me then. Yeah. And I think that's with everything. It's so easy to think about why you can't do it and how hard it'll be to fit in. So it's just little things like now when you're staying away, making sure you've got access to a gym, getting up a little bit earlier, fitting something in on the way home. And it's doable and it's manageable. And apart from feeling happy about how I look mentally, I always thought I was really focused and had really good mental resilience, but I just feel like flying now mentally.
I've got a big topic on this, Lucy. I can go on in on this one. I think most people are lazy, but they don't know it. So I've been doing 75 hard. I'm going to continue doing it. 75 hard is 2 45-minute workouts a day, separated. One of them's got to be outside. No alcohol, no sweets, no chocolate. Follow a diet plan. 5 gallons of water. Read 10 pages of a fictional book and take a progress photo. Now, I've had exercise in my life for the last 5 years solid, and I pretty much train every day, and I've done a bit of cold water therapy, and it's tailed off since Christmas. I need to get that back into my life, but generally I exercise minimum 5 days a week, and now I've upped it even more. And it's that piece of work where people think they are tired, right? And you're not. You're actually being lazy. And people make excuses up and they say they need the time off. But what happens is, what I've learned in the last 75 days, it's about 10 minutes of pain, maybe 6 minutes of pain. So you get home from work, like you've had a really tough day. I had a tough day yesterday, like I told you before. I'm exhausted, tired, emotionally battered. Phone calls and dealing with work, all between letting 3 people go. And I still did a workout for an hour last night, and I ran in the morning. And I've got up this morning. I'm going to do a run today, and I'll do a workout today, and I'll still get everything in. Still got 2 kids, still got a business to run. And it's because I've realised that it's people put fake boundaries in. They put fake walls in because they think they are tired and they think they haven't got time. And what they do is they say, I'm going to go to bed at this time and I'm going to do this at this time. And they create this illusion of time scales they've got and tiredness. And I could go off on a tangent, but I have learned over the last 75 days that it's about 6 minutes of brushing your teeth, put your clothes on, getting out the door, going to the gym or going for a run. And the same thing when you get home from work, do your usual thing from getting home. Now, there's a bit of sacrifice sometimes because if you've got kids, someone has to stay at the house and look after the kids and put them to bed and stuff. But after that point, from 7 till 8, I usually watch Netflix, put a film on anything. It's doing that piece of work and moving from there.
Yeah, it's much easier on the guilt thing now because Holly's nearly 16 and, even if I'm in the house, she's doing her own thing anyway. Yeah. So... yeah, you've got to be, I guess, a little bit selfish in terms of, you are, focusing on me. And I kind of almost like announce that kind of to the family, that I am going to be really taking care of myself. But you're a better person for it, surely.
Yeah. You're a better person because you've been concentrating yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yet now, I'm probably in the gym 6 days a week.
Mega.
I'm not sure I could do twice a day like you. I have to say that's quite hardcore. But I completely agree with you because I'd be thinking, I'm working long hours, I'm working away, really hard to healthy eat when you're away, but it's all excuses, and if you want it enough, you'll find a way to make it work. And then when you start to see progress, it's easier, isn't it then, because you're super, super motivated. And, I really can't imagine not having a lifestyle like this now. It's just habitual.
But the thing
now.
is also you don't want to get to 50, 60, 70 years old and not be able to be the mum or the grandma that you need to be.
And you're right, because my mum's got really bad osteoarthritis, and she copes amazingly well. But I mean, she says to me, if she understood about the importance of kind of resistance training and things like that, you can really combat the impact of those sorts of degenerative conditions as well. So it's a bit of self-preservation for later life, because we're all living older, aren't we, for longer?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. My dad had bowel cancer, and I've got checked out for that a few times, but I believe it was from he was unhealthy, red wine and ate too much and put loads of weight on and all that sort of stuff, and I thought to myself, I'm never going to get like that.
My dad has lived an unbelievably healthy life, not like doing any extreme exercise, but always, everything in real moderation. He's 84 and, he's still my daughter's personal chauffeur, out doing the gardening. Most people to look at him would think he was mid-60s. Yeah.
Amazing, that, isn't it? Can I talk on one more thing?
You can.
Public speaking.
Yes.
Have you always been amazing at it?
I wouldn't say I've always been amazing at it. I'd say it's never been something that's kind of been...
I've heard you speak a couple of times. Do you know you were the first person that spoke with me?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a BFA panel, and Pip, me and you were on the panel.
I remember it.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever done it. And I was like sat next to you going, oh my God, she's fucking incredible at this. And I think you weren't even asked. Like, I feel like you were just like, yeah, this is another star, get me off this thing. What was my tea? And you were amazing. Now, since that day, I've always silently admired you.
Oh, well, that's lovely. Well, you have just gone from strength to strength, and I think now, I mean, it appears you do it all in your stride as well. It does become the norm, I think, particularly in the franchising arenas and home care. Actually, you're talking about things that you know inside out, so it becomes very, very natural. I think where it's a little bit more nerve-wracking is if you're doing a keynote for the first time and it's on something completely new. the keynote at the conference is always a little bit nerve-wracking because it's kind of a pinnacle point in the year and you've got to get it absolutely on point for the franchise owners. So expectations are high. Panel situation is always really comfortable because you've got lots of people there. I've got a big one coming up for Langbuisen, which is one of them social care sector, kind of a really prominent kind of brand, and they've got a big conference.
Would you do any prep for that, Lucy?
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, the whole thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, absolutely, because I'm heading up the home care stream, so there's going to be everyone from kind of politicians to lots of sector
Talk me
leaders
through,
there.
what would you give me an idea, like, so a week before, what would you be like, state of mind?
Well, I will try and not over prepare on the conference speech. So what I try to do is, kind of several months before, and I'll do this for our conference one. You'll be at certain events or things and you'll kind of just get like little bits of inspiration along the way, and you'll think, oh, that would be really good, or yeah, that really inspired me, or really like the way they presented that. So kind of bring everything together. So you'll kind of have a bit of a brainstorm and then start to kind of piece it into a presentation, not have it kind of written in kind of like word by word form, but then kind of just like the prompts. And then probably like a couple of weeks before, start doing a couple of practices. And I might do one run through on the morning, but something that Kay taught me about and the breath works, I absolutely put that into practice because I think even though I'm not nervous, when the adrenaline kicks in, you can feel your heart start to increase. And I'm always worried that you can kind of hear that in your voice because mentally you're like, fine with this, but your body's kind of doing something else. I think it's a bit of excitement. So the breathworks techniques, they really, really work. And I use them all, like literally all the time.
Same.
Like it's just something I do before I get on stage.
I love that. Yeah, it's good, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. I think I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted to ask you. The one thing I always think about, maybe I should talk to you a little bit about this. And I don't know if you'll let me know or not. Have you ever struggled becoming a leader? And have you ever struggled getting that team right?
Have I ever struggled becoming a leader? There's been challenges along the way. Of course there has. I was in quite a senior position from quite a young age. So I think, leaders in different areas. So first and foremost, being taken seriously as somebody that is quite young, looks quite young, in sometimes quite formalised environments, often, rooms where you've got lots of middle-aged men. That's kind of challenging in itself, and feeling like, well, you do actually have to just go that little bit further to kind of prove your credibility. Yeah. And particularly, when you're younger, sometimes that can be a little bit daunting at times. But there's always that kind of little thing inside me of kind of I'll show you, I'll prove.
You can back yourself, don't you?
I'll prove you wrong, and then basically, as you kind of prove yourself and confidence grows, then that becomes easier. You will find in life, if you're successful, unfortunately, people are jealous. You will have people that try to stab you in your back. You will have people that try to put boundaries in. You will, and I've experienced all of that. People who've been jealous, people who've tried to stab me in the back, people who've wanted my position. And I've been fortunate enough to have enough people around me and enough people who've believed in me that it's never stopped me in my tracks. And I think, you've just got to prove yourself and really, build yourself as a credible individual. And I just try to be really authentic and really genuine. And I think for people around you to be a little bit vulnerable, you don't need to be absolutely 100% fantastic at everything, and recognizing with your team and openly talking about how certain people are better at certain things than you, and building that perfect team around you. Ken and I will openly talk about how our skills, talents and experience complement each other. Of course, my experience is teeny tiny compared to his, but, he will recognise certain strengths that I've got that he maybe isn't as strong in, and vice versa. And I think that's really, really important in leadership. But I think, despite, everything, always had that determination and fire that, you know, anybody that's ever tried to stop me in my tracks, and, you know, I've had a few personal experiences very early on in life where, yeah, that, you know, probably could have set me off down different tracks and didn't, that have really just given me that fire to think absolutely no one is going to stop me. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, as long as I know I'm doing everything for the right reasons, in line with my values, then no one's going to hold me back.
Love that. What's your husband think about it all? Is he back? Is he good for you? He's
amazing. I'm very, very lucky. I am like a whirlwind, you know. I'm just on from one thing to the next. He's a very content person. He enjoys the life we live, but he's, you know, quite content. And I'm super, super ambitious and always going for the next thing. And, you know, quite often, you know, occasionally he'll say, oh, that won't happen, or we won't do that. And I'll just say, you know, watch, we will. And it always happens. But he's amazing. He's happy doing what he does. He's a massive Evertonian. He loves the football. He goes to home and away. He has a really good social life.
What's he do for a job?
He works in banking. So he works for an organisation called Rathbones in dividends. And he's phenomenal at his job, but he just kind of takes it in his stride. He's just
how did you meet him?
Pardon?
How did you meet him?
How did I meet him? Oh, not the most romantic of meetings. I met him in Yates's Wine Lodge at the bottom of the road where my parents lived. I met him when I was 16. Didn't get together immediately. Had another relationship with somebody that wasn't particularly good for me, and then moved back into a relationship with Neil when I was about 20, and then we've been together ever since. 17 years married in May.
Wow. He deserves a medal, doesn't
he? Yeah, he'd probably agree with you there.
Would you share that other relationship with me or not?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I've spoken about it in public. So, yeah, I mean, I was very, very, very young, unfortunately. That individual was a few years older. To cut a long story short, bit of a monster of an individual. Ended up being very, very violent, physically and mentally abusive. But I was lucky. It was early on in life. I managed to get away. And yeah, he's not gone down such a great path. But I was just really, really fortunate to experience those things early on in life and realise exactly what I didn't want. Yeah. It was not a great experience, but I've never thought of myself as a victim. Yeah. He was a monster of an individual and tried some pretty horrific things when I tried to get away from him. But yeah, it's all history, and you know.
I think sometimes it's not always about being a victim. I think it's sometimes just being able to share the story, because if it goes through someone else goes through it, being able to see how successful you've been in your career and as a mum and stuff, and getting a new relationship. It's nice to hear, but I also think sometimes it's good to share these things because.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to Holly, you know, at the age of kind of like 16, you're so impressionable, and it's so easy to kind of, you know, for somebody to present as, you know, everything you could want them to be, and then very, very quickly, you know, finding out, you know, so you can be very easily influenced kind of emotionally at that age. And then suddenly, you know, you're in a situation where you feel you're forced to stay because, you know, you're being told X, Y, and Z might happen if you leave. And you're so naive to the world. You know, when you, as an older woman looking back, you sometimes can't quite comprehend why you made those decisions.
But you're older now, aren't you? And you've learned a lot of lessons about life. I bet it's made you the resilient person you are.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'd say, you know, people say from trauma comes triumph, and for me, you know, that I've absolutely used that experience to make sure nothing's ever going to hold me back.
Yeah, I understand that. I love you. You're very inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on.
Oh, I'm glad I came on. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to get the journey out of you. It's nice to see you in this light. I'm going to call it a day. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you.